You are listening to Radiant Creators, a collaborative project composed of people whose passion, purpose, and dedication requires forging their own unique path of empowerment and livelihood. A radiant creator isn't making a living, they are living.
Here on Radiant Creators, we're doing a little series of interviews, which is really about, it's kind of methods and inspiration during craziness series, because there's a bit of global craziness going on right now. I mean, it comes in a lot of different forms, but we all know at least a couple of them, probably one of them that is to do with a lot of them. And so everyone has different opinions on what that is, etc. But definitely we are in challenging times, crazy times. It's a glorious craziness going on. And we're just a little series. We talked to Robert Young Pelton. He's kind of an adventurist, and that was called the Neo-Pioneer American, getting back to thinking locally, acting locally. Also, John Hickman of the Primitive Ways YouTube channel. He's definitely a true Neo-Aboriginal. So we're really kind of getting into how do you connect to something you called in one of your recent videos, which was amazing, called You Are a Hero. And you mentioned reconnect with that internal authority inside of us. And that's definitely something we need to do. So we're going to talk about that for sure, because that is important. Because in the midst of all this craziness, uncertainty, if you can connect to that, you're good to go. And if you're connected to that during this time, as we get back to the, I'm going to call it the better than the old normal, maybe, then you're going to be like that horse that jumped the stall, and you're going to be way ahead, you know. Not that life has to be a competition, but this is definitely a time where there's endless opportunities. And if one can stay sane amidst this craziness, it's an incredible advantage, you know, to you and all those you care about in the world in general. Because every sane person who's grounded in that internal authority right now, that makes a huge difference. Because one person grounded and powerful there helps to calm a whole city, or at least a whole household, or, well, themselves at least. You feel a little better.
Right?
Yeah. And so something about Herbal Jedi's channel, if you watch it, is there was a great, well, I'm not going to, there was a great mystic, Rudolf Steiner. And when he came to town, people who were a bit intuitive could tell that the nature spirits were happier and the herbs and the plants were happier because someone truly saw them. And something about Herbal Jedi's videos that are really powerful is, I think the Herbal Jedi really shares that passion, where your videos, you see that rejoicing, that that celebration in nature. It's something that Steiner was definitely doing with his unique spiritual vision. He was seeing the plant spirits, seeing the nature spirits, and somehow when you see them, they rejoice, they get happy, they start to like dance around, you know. And somehow when you're out there doing your videos, it's like, oh yeah, you know, you're bringing that connection forth. You know, it really shows in your videos. So where do we start exactly? Well, a great little place is, could you talk a little bit about, well, of course, how you're doing today? You know, you lived through a near-death experience. You got stung in the face by a bee, but also in your videos, along with really seeing those nature spirits, seeing the aliveness of nature, and it rejoicing because you're there and you see it, and then it sees you, that comes across. You often mention the importance of getting to know a plant through hanging out with it. Can you talk a little bit about your near-death experience, and then also getting to know plants by hanging out with them? Because it's great to take your dandelion root tea, that's wonderful, but to hang out with that plant, that's a whole different experience.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I will just touch in on, you know, I actually spent my childhood going through the Waldorf Education, through Rudolf Steiner's kind of journey into educational process. So it's just ironic you bring that up. But, you know, I think, you know, and just to take one step back, all of the work that we've been doing over the years in our self-help, in our internal healing and working on ourselves, whether it's meditation or yoga or whatever you've been doing, whatever anyone's been doing, all that comes to go time right now. Like right now is where we want to put all that in practice. And so I think it's actually just a really great opportunity to actually use all of these tools that we've been learning over the years, as a society, some of these ancient mystery arts, some of these ancient ways of showing up, but also in a modern context, even things like the biohacking and things like this nouveau kind of, as you sort of coined it or talked about it, that like neo-Aboriginal awareness. All this stuff is not just philosophy, it's actually very practical in times like this. And that's what's so beautiful about this, is it's actually a practical opportunity for us to really use some of these tools. So for me, one of the big things, like obviously, yeah, I just got stung in the face 3 days ago doing a video. We were doing a Scotch broom video, and it was really something that I'm excited about, because this is a plant that grows on the West Coast. It's a #1 invasive weed, and everyone hates it. And I'm trying to just sort of shape a new story around this plant. And we're looking at it, and we see this wasp nest in the plant. We're like, wow, that's really interesting that the wasps would actually put a nest right in that Scotch broom. And we're hanging out and talking about it, and little low enough, like I was tuning into them, and yet being on video was like, oh, this is great. We'll just tune right into these wasps. And they're like, give us space. Boom, right in the face. Anyway, my face blew up. It was pretty insane for a couple of days. But I feel like that kind of experience actually woke me up even to another level of appreciation. You know, at first I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got stung. But I realized that this is not the end. This is actually a new beginning. And I think some of this craziness is a end of an epoch, the end of an era, right? We look through where we're at now. We look at like all these old catastrophic philosophies around the end of the world, around Armageddons, around that. It's not really that, but there's an opportunity to have a mini death. And that mini death is bringing us a new resurgence of energy that we can actually clear away a bunch of stuff. There's a whole lot that can be cleared right now that may not be serving us. And by spending time at home, we actually have to tune in, and we have to connect in. Maybe not to the nature spirits if that's not our mode, but at least to ourselves. That internal authority is speaking louder than it ever has. Of course, there's a lot of external noise. So it's like, are we filtering that, or are we bringing that in? And what pieces of that are we bringing in? Are we bringing in guides, or are we bringing in pandemonium fear? That's up to the individual. But I think right now there is an opportunity that there never has been before, at least in my life, to really go cleaner into listening to what my actual heart wants to see, what my actual spirit wants to feel in this lifetime. Where do I want to go? And I think there's way more opportunity now than there is challenge, even though a lot of people are out of work, a lot of people are suffering, their businesses aren't, but a lot of those businesses and a lot of those jobs may not necessarily be exactly your heart song. And so if you can see it as an opportunity to look to what might be what you actually really want to do, what are you really here to do? And when we have time where we're not allowed to connect with each other, that's another opportunity to realize, like, wow, we really care about connecting with each other, how important it is to touch people, to feel all of these things. They hold a lot more importance when we can't have them. And I just really appreciate all of these insights that are coming, not just through me from my own internal authority, but through so many beautiful people right now. There's just a really brilliant glow of creative energy in the world that I'm excited to see others tapping into as well.
Yes, it does seem that we do have a lot of cosmic energy coming in right now. And this is an interesting time. This very moment, we have some of the, like 3 of the big planets are all retrograde if one follows astrology, which is, you know, sounds a little scary, but it's a good thing. It's a good uncovering. It's a good, you know, payoff for hard work done. It's a good, you know, uncovering of what is not true. And it's a beautiful thing. And so we have big planets that are retrograde kind of going, okay, I think one of them is Jupiter, of all things, our good luck. It's going like backwards. It's like, well, you know, so a lot of amazing things happening. Well, that's amazing. So you actually went through Rudolf Steiner education. That's amazing. And I have to say, now that I think of it, really not surprising, you know, and there was yeah. Oh,
I was just saying my parents were right into the Steiner philosophy at the time.
mm. Well, for the show, sometimes I take random notes because they just seem like something that might come up. And 2 weeks before Rudolf Steiner died, that would have been March 30th, 1925, his last writing, there's the one little section of it that's amazing. And it's, I want with cosmic spirit to enthuse each human being that a flame they may become, and with fiery will unfold the essence of their being.
Mm.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty good desire for life. I'll take that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I know. And um, one of the things I understand about him is he really wanted us to evolve this stuff too. He didn't want his message to be like written in stone, which is one of the challenges that you run into even in the Waldorf education or biodynamic farming. So many people are trying to like hold on to what Steiner said, but like his core belief was like, I want you to radiate and grow this to make this more beautiful with your evolving awareness. And so I want to just honor that in any teaching that we learn, to remember that we're here as creators to evolve that teaching too. And that's part of the ongoing opportunity, I guess.
Yes, and that's definitely an uh, important point because in your video, you are a hero. One of the things that you mentioned um, is, of course, along with reconnecting with that internal authority inside of us, which is essential because right now there's maybe a little bit of an advantage and also a little bit of a challenge in that one thing most people I know have noticed is that, wow, it's quiet, but the quiet it's multidimensional. It's not just quiet as far as there's less cars and planes. It's mentally more quiet. It's spiritually more quiet. It's this, wow. And you go outside and you walk at night, especially, or wherever you go, you feel it. And at first, when you're used to so much noise, especially people who live in big cities and such like that, they're used to so much noise. All of a sudden it gets quiet. It's unsettling, so it really has been a time where however an
Yeah.
individual processes it, it's the quiet it has a texture and you can't help but notice it. And that definitely helps to connect to that inner authority, that inner center. So, but at the same time, in the midst of that quiet, we've just had the fear cannons blasting, the whatever. It's insane. So it's like
For
we have
sure.
this advantage of the quiet, but the only noise out there, if unless you go connect to the dandelions, is this craziness. So it's really a unique time, you know. And
Yeah,
mhm,
there's some eeriness to that too, right?
yes.
That some people are really feeling. They're feeling in that eerie, like unsettled quietness, which is challenging for humanity to sit with even.
Well, but you do realize how revved up you always are at this time with the quiet, because it doesn't really matter if it feels like it's just a unique energy that's happening with the quiet because, we're not exactly in a city here. We're a bit rural. I mean, the roads are paved. It's not quite that rural, but, but not far from here, the roads are not paved. So live in a nice place, but it doesn't seem like regardless of where I might go, you still feel the quiet. I think maybe it's just kind of like, it's like when it first snows and the snow hasn't been disturbed and you go into nature
Mm,
and there's just that quiet, that softness. It just feels like the whole world got snowed on by a cosmic quiet, you know? Um,
yeah,
and yeah, and so it's really, there's an eeriness to it because it's not usual. And sometimes I'll be outside
right.
and think there should be more people out here or something. But if one can go with it, if you can start to use that quietness to help to connect to that inner center, inner authority, I like that, where you put it, and your own power, then the next thing you know, you start realizing how revved you were. Because like I noticed how like I read more now because like we're not acquainted with the sound of paper. We like
Mm.
bullet points and quick stories and scrolling. And now you go, oh, like at a certain point I was like, no more social media right now because I'm actually doing like a social media fast and like a news fast for like a week or so, because I'm like,
Okay.
what difference does it make? And there's this quiet. Let's get deeper into that quiet. The world will still be there. I bet the story won't have changed, you know. And we start realizing, wow, listening to Alan Watts on YouTube. If you ever listen to Alan Watts, he's like a philosopher, but he talked slow. He was so
Yeah.
relaxed, so zen. And you start looking at books, going, okay, I'm not looking. Once you stop looking at social media and the news, there's no reason to look at your phone. So you can just toss it. And you start reading and the sound of paper, and you realize like, oh my gosh, these old encyclopedias, these amazing pictures. So how have you found that this like silence, this multidimensional quiet that seems to have covered the earth, what have you been cultivating during that time?
Wow. Well, I feel really lucky that I have inside of me already all of these things that I wanted to generate that I wasn't able to find the time for. And now I'm just like, I'm basking in so many great little projects. Even like, I just renovated my upstairs office for a minute and made a new office, which was great to just experience that. But, for example, we started a bunch of mushroom cultures and started growing those out, picking a bunch of herbs for making meads and different kinds of ferments. So I'm just playing in the nature right now. Spring is my favorite time of year because there's just so much abundance out here. So I feel like I have more time to do those things, the things that bring me joy. Connecting in with my family, having fires, taking the time to make more amazing meals, because I know that a big way to stay in your center within all of this is to just keep topping yourself up, keep nourishing yourself with the things that bring you joy. And so I've just found way more opportunity for that. Our business went a little crazy because we do have a lot of herbal and medicinal mushroom supplements at Harmonic Arts that we run, and that just like a lot of people are really looking for stuff like that. So that's been a little more interesting there, and there's a few aspects like that. But I think what I've really been filling my time with is getting deeper into things I'm excited about that I maybe haven't had time for, and then also I'm attempting to just do a lot more nature walks, and when I do that, just process all these feelings that are coming up in me and writing them down, and just really more like a internal journaling, which is allowing me to just put it out into the ethos, how I feel. I've followed a number of beliefs around things like Bruce Lipton's biology of belief and stuff like that, where you emanate from a thought form first before it becomes reality. And I feel as though right now, at least those of us who can hold that space for love, for the planet, for the amazingness of this place, we're doing something important when we do that work, when we actually take time to appreciate our loved ones, our family, bring joy into our lives. I think that's a really important piece that a lot of people are starting to get into. But, for the first few weeks of all of this, it was really challenging for most people to even just downregulate enough to even hear their own thoughts, because there's so much coming at us. So my caution to anyone listening to this, if you haven't found a place of solace yet in this time, there's such an opportunity for you to go deep right now. Go deep. And I recommend you do some kind of, state shift, whether it's meditation or forest walking or fasting or something, to at least penetrate the veils of being in reaction mode, because that's not been serving humanity for a long time now. And many of us are just really realizing how deep and unsettling that like reactionary human nature has been on this planet for the last few decades, at least, if not centuries. So,
I think definitely this time has helped me realize what is sacred and what is not, what matters and what is not, what connects to life and what doesn't. And there's a part of me that has found, I call it like lockdown 2020, to be a little annoying, but at the same time, as it starts to end here in Arizona, especially, every state's a little different, but we're kind of over it now. I already sort of miss it. And you start going, oh, I wish
right?
I wish I'd done more with the silence you know, but it's still here. I've definitely been able to not condition, but to create, to grow it, you know. Um, so as this time passes, it's already starting to miss it because all the things that you're mentioning. Well, it's true. Those first couple of weeks are hard, but then eventually it just seems like, well, yeah, as you're saying, I'm tired of being reactionary. Because if you look, you know, at any news or social media, you're like, oh, reaction. Okay, it's more crazy than I don't care. I give up now. I'm turning you off and go away, and I'll hang out with paper. And so then something I noticed was so many things come up because you realize, well, I'm doing what matters. I'm not doing what doesn't matter. I'm just, you know, here in Arizona, we have a lot of hydroponics. We're growing hydroponics because, well, it's really hot outside right now. I mean, only thing that can exist outside right now is rocks and saguaro cactus. Everything else gets incinerated. So you have your hydroponics and you have you grow your herbs and you have to move things because they're too hot. So really cultivating, like trying to grow a miner's lettuce here, Claytonia in the summer because it's so good, and just, you know, doing all these things. And you start realizing that, yeah, you sort of don't want it to end because you're really cultivating. This is something that you've mentioned, power. You know, in your hero video, which is really an important video. It's a minute and 50 seconds. Everybody watch it. I'll link to it in the show notes. But it's true. You mentioned, you know, we are creators and we are powerful people, and it's a great place to really to dive deep, because now if you got your center a little bit more in tune and you're like, yes, I've got my center of authority. I don't care what the media is really saying. I don't really care about social media very much. Don't care, whatever. Here, I've returned to this place that moves slow enough where I can read a book and I go, I remember it wasn't that long ago when this was entertainment. Like this was like my iPad, this book. You go, whoa, I'm so much deeper. You know, so the going deep is wonderful. I mean, I hope everybody has to some extent, and that they can continue cultivating, going deeper. But you mentioned in one of your videos that I think is, before we go into that one, you did mention find your guides and places of wisdom in the You're a Hero video. So finding your guides and your places of wisdom. Find your guide. When you mention that, what is a guide to you?
Well, there's many different forms. I mean, some of the guides to me, at least in this time, are people who are speaking from their own internal creative power. I believe we're all creators. We're not victims. We're being put into a victim consciousness when we become consumers instead of actual creators. And this kind of dichotomy of like in the modern world where we're consuming. No guide is a consumer. Like, who's creating really powerful messaging and really aware, deeper thought? And those, to me, are inspirational people that are really doing that work. And so those are my guides. And then beyond people, because I am a herbalist and really love connecting with plant medicine, I find my guide is also this sort of force moving through the natural world is another guide of mine. Like spring is right now, and at least I'm in Canada, and you know, everything's just coming back to life. There's all these new buds, there's all these new bird songs and bird and frog calls, and salamanders are starting to crawl out, and snakes are in the garden. And they may not be like a specific guide, but the energy of them is guiding me to embrace creativity and to embrace like new life and to clear and really grow at that level. So that's another form of guide to me. Yeah, some of like one of the guides that I was following, one thing he shared is that actually in 2020, we've had less respiratory deaths than we had in 2017 or 2019, and it's somewhere around similar to 2018, which is just such a different, it's just a really important number to me, because I'm like, wait a minute, I know we're really afraid of this, and this is really powerful, and it's a problematic, it's a very contagious and deadly virus, but at the same time, the overall, like, at least throughout the US, the overall deaths are actually lower than influenza has been in years of the past. So So what are we really afraid of? Like, we know that viruses come in and cull people. We know that, for example, we are living in a way that is out of alignment with nature. So of course we're going to attract something that's going to tell us that. Something's going to make us aware that says, hey, this is not the way to live. And so when we look at like factory farming and we start pumping them full of antibiotics, for example, in order to keep them alive, we looked at a lot of like the way we grow our agriculture. It's very synthetic. It's very counterintuitive to the natural flow. And so, of course, when we're living in that same way, are we being guided with wisdom? I don't think so. And I think that this is maybe a reminder that there is a better way. And that better way has been a lot closer to us than we ever realized. It's actually already inside of it. It's our nature. It's the way our cells work, the way our microbiome works. There's all these guides telling us how to show up on this planet. And I think that now is a great opportunity to hear those guides, because we're being shown something from a really like external facing view that what you're doing is not working. And I don't think it's about a virus being transferred by a person across into an infectious thing around people. It's actually about a whole issue that's much, much bigger that we've created the circumstance for, because we're not living in alignment, essentially. So that's one of my big guides is looking to, I'll say, interspecies awareness communication too, not just from human, but like, can we get guided from many other forms of intelligence that our planet is like exuding all around us all the time?
Oh, I love it. Exactly. Well, it's like when one feels a little bit, well, it's always good to go into nature, but when one feels ill at ease, especially if let's say the fear of this moment is bothering them, to whatever extent they can go in nature. Now, here it's desert, which is nature, but it's very, very alive, very, very different. I kind of do, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so I do kind of like moss and green and all this stuff, but the desert is very alive. And when you spend time, the further you go out into it, it rains food in the desert. You got saguaro cactus with their fruit right now. You've got the prickly pears. You've got the barrel cactus with their fruit. You've got chia, wild desert chia that grows here. It smells and it tastes like sage. Where most of the time you get chia seeds, they're kind of like, so it tastes like nothing. Out here, you harvest them. One thing, they're very, very pokey. They want to stab you. But as you everything in the desert wants to poke or stab you, or sting you. But still,
for sure it does.
you go out there and you gather those seeds, and they're just immaculate. And there's the mesquite is just starting right now, so it's little kind of flowers. It's going to soon be little pods. You can pick a ton of that. It's out there, and you can take it to the hammer mill. We have those here, and you can just dump it in, and it mills it for you. So all of a sudden, rather than be, there's this fear signal, and something in me aligned with it, and now I am fearful. You go into nature, and all of a sudden, it's almost just like yourself and your guides. You can say, just get so much bigger, and you're connected to that inner authority, and you go, it's gone. That fear is just gone, because this is life. No matter what the fear signal might be, it's synthetic, like you were saying. This is life, And I know some people don't live in an area where they can do that, but one can find a connection other ways. Like, for one thing, I was out the other day, and there was dandelions breaking through the sidewalk, and somebody, kind of commented like, "Oh, what a mess." And I'm like, how heroic. I mean, they're little badasses. I mean, look at that. Right? Just, they're just and how can you not see the gloriousness of this, Wow. Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd love to speak to that for a second.
Yes, please do.
I appreciate that a lot of people live in cities for specific reasons and need to be there. And I just want to honor that there is still so much connection to nature in a city. You don't have to be in this pristine nature wildness. You can start to grow a plant or a couple of plants on your balcony if you have a balcony, or when you almost everywhere there's a park. And my recommendation to try to channel that deeper connection is to turn off all your devices to begin with, and just start moving at about 50% of your normal speed, and to slow down and just take deep breaths, to on purpose just go slow. And what we call this forest bathing, but it's essentially to kind of wander and get curious. And in getting curious, you start oscillating and slowing at a different rhythm. And that's a lot more akin to how the natural world's rhythm is. It's not moving at this fast space that the human consciousness grid is vibrating at right now. So just even that simple practice of turning off your devices, walking slowly through a park for 5 minutes. That's all it takes, 5 minutes. Maybe finding a tree or a blade of grass and just getting curious about it and touching it and connecting with it. These are simple things that anyone in anywhere can do. And I want to really make sure that people realize that you don't have to be deep in the bush or way out in the wildlands to connect with nature. You are nature, and it is always with you. It's around us at any moment. We just need to take the time. That's all. And as we take the time, we build up a cadence and a rhythm and a memory and a nervous system awareness that it's really easy for us to get back into hearing those kind of guides. So do that daily, do that weekly, create some kind of rhythm, and right away, this type of tuning becomes intuitive and simple. And it's a great place to just regenerate your cells when you're feeling overwhelmed. I think nature deficit disorder is the #1 disease of our time. And a lot of people right now have been suffering from that for a long time. And they're really like, it's a wake-up call with all of this fear that's programming around our minds, is to get back to our land in some form. City or country, doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely. It's because nature isn't something outside of you. We think of going into nature or going to nature. Well, you're already nature, you know, and to break down that barrier to where, well, I'm no longer in nature. Now I am, I guess you could say. That's a big moment. What I like that we're doing is, I love offering people, especially at this time, kind of a framework of things they can do to get rid of that fear, to work it out. Because I know the silence does oftentimes, it helps us get deeper, going deep, but also it helps to purge that fear. These things come up and you feel it, and you can have a crappy day and you can just kind of like just barf something and go, well, metaphorically, and go, man, when I was 13 years old, that kid took my notebook and I just felt, and you're, and I'm 50 and it slowed me down my whole life. And I just realized. So
how cool to be able to have that insight.
Yes.
Right?
And I think this is the time. So what I like is this little bit of a framework that we're talking about, because if people have a framework for this time, I think it could go very, very far, because connecting to that inner authority right now and coming from that place as we return to normal, I will say, or a better normal individually, if we so desire, then you got this head start. You know, it can be a new life for yourself, and really you're going to help others. It's not always so much what you do, it's who you are, it's your energy. So if one wants to help the world, get connected to your inner signal, and then just live, do what interests you, and I guarantee there isn't more you could do. You'll be led to do exactly what is perfect for you specifically. So in this ritual of nature, if you're lucky enough, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's going to serve you better than any analytics, better than any form of like trying to strategically develop a plan or make a sales funnel, or all these things that people tell us to do to get rich quicker, to build these things. It's like, no, stop all that. Just stop right now. Like that's somebody else's jam filling up your toast. Like start to dive into the internal. What does your heart really want? And let that guide you. And the more confidence you build in that guiding you in the right direction, the happier you're going to be. And the more you're going to find your way in a way that really isn't maybe the way that you've been told you should be, but it's going to make you more fulfilled. And I just want to say that, because so many things I see now on advertisements is how to I'll say apocalypse proof your business, or how to create a strategic analyzed like thing to narrow down your market, and all the stuff that I want to say that if you are authentic and you're coming from your internal authority and you're creating value in the world, you are shining. And you're like, well, I've heard one person share this, and I want to say it, you're a lighthouse, not a tugboat. You're not like pulling all of this energy. People are coming to you because they see that what you're doing is emanating something beautiful. And I think we all can do that. It's inside of all of us. It's in our DNA. It's what we're meant to do. And so to me, this is the most important thing we can do with our time right now, is develop a rhythm with our own internal awareness points. Anyway.
No, absolutely. Because I think that it's essential to, and it sounds so almost oversimplistic, but be yourself. And during this time of the silence covering the land, like this beautiful snow, as that snow melts, as the silence melts, hopefully we've cultivated some of that silence within us, that inner authority, that connection. Like Alan Watts has a great lecture on you hear it when you're silent, and so. But a lot of people, if you said be yourself, and a person sat with that, they really might ask themselves, well, who is that? And that's important to get that inner perspective, that inner authority, that connection to source, and that I say source, spirit, soul, God, whatever you want to call it, that inner authority, that connection, that's who you are. And it's a real good question for people to contemplate, is how much time have you spent there? Because the sales funnel, like that's really nice. The sales funnel. But the sales funnel,
I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the concept. I just feel like, man, like that's all just social programming and a colonization of your mind. It's being colonized. I think of myself as like 7 or 8 generations removed from my ancestry, right? Like my ancestors at one point were probably pagans at some part, but like that's so far removed from like who I am now. I've been colonized for generation after generation after generation to the now. When I think of my life, I think, well, what is my life? And it's all these ideas that actually aren't even really my life. They're colonized thoughts that came into me, little meme viruses from my society over generations. So it's like, there's a piece of like decolonizing in order to get into alignment that I think is part of that, I'll call the hero's journey right now, is to like deprogram a little bit. Like, what's a relationship? What's a life? Like a lot of us, we could give an answer to that, but we're probably not giving a true answer. We're giving an answer that came to us from outside of us based on our society. So, yeah, there's work to be done, I'll say, for all of us, myself included.
Definitely, because like so much of that we're dealing with, it might be, let's say, holding us back. Like old dogma oftentimes is ancestral stuff we have in our bone marrow, you might say. It's just, because I mean, I look at how life changed. I love the idea of the neo-Aboriginal, the new Aboriginal. But if you look at our little happy Aboriginal, it's called like that natural human out there. Like when you look at the advent of farming and cities and things like that, then that little free human was no longer free. It's funny when you talk about like you mentioned, modern agriculture and modern, farming. Well, modern farming and modern livestock, cattle, or whatever it is, chickens. Really, that first bit of grain that we planted, on a certain level, was the enslavement of humanity. You were no longer free. Come in the city and make monuments to the great king. It's like,
Well, and I mean, I want to invite us to believe and to understand that was also really useful for a time being, but that usefulness has been dwindling. Our minds are no longer as supple and as creative as they might have been at one point, and also as aware of like what's really happening around us. Like we just take it all for face value. We have gods. Our new God is this thing, right? This is my new God, and it tells me all the things I need to do all the time. And so that internal authority, again, is just, it's colonized so heavily by a social construct that we can't even tell half the time that we're not being authentic. We think we are. But we don't know because there's so many layers. It's just, we're peeling back some of the layers with all of this time right now, I think. And for some of us, that's really scary because those layers are really deep. And there's a lot of layers there. So, but I just would say, sit with those layers, get what we call fun comfortable. That's like getting uncomfortable, but being excited to be uncomfortable for a bit because this is growth, right? This is challenging, fun, comfortable feelings. So,
I like that, fun, comfortable. That's amazing. That's a good place to be. Well, and also we have to realize that there are some people who want to look at those levels and they want to get back to that. They're cultivating that center, and we'll talk a little bit more about that for sure. And then there's some people who are, well, they're happy not doing that, and that's a time right now where I see, I almost call it like a division in society, a division on the earth, and I'm not going to make it good or bad. I'm just going to say that there seems to be like a great guy that we know, Case is his name. He has the Everyday Masters YouTube channel, and he talks about the love train and the fear train. And so that love train is, you could also kind of call it the inner authority, inner connection, inner voice, inner awareness, inner center connection to planet, self, universe, God force. And then there's the fear train, which really it's not going in the same direction. So we do have these there, while we're living on this planet, we have different evolutionary, there's so many different evolutionary variants and levels and such like that. But most people listening to this, they're probably on a love train and they're probably working on that cultivation, But if a person's not, well, don't worry, the restaurants will soon be open. And you can get back to that sales funnel. Oh my gosh. Well, it's something that Steiner talked about was our, like, Egyptians and this and that, and back in history, he would mention that, like, it's hard that we have a bad habit of seeing the past as presentarians. We go, well, how would they make the pyramids, or why would they? Well, as he would put it, reality was different and their consciousness was different. So one of the first things he would say you have to do is actually, through spiritual vision and meditation, go there and get to know that culture, because he's like, why are you concerned about the pyramids and why they made them? Learn who the people are, and you'll realize it was a vastly different mind. They weren't humans as we think of humans right now. We look around and think of humans like this, but that's just our vision. They were a different thing. Yeah, they loved making pyramids and eating grain. They did. So
well, and it's just moving, like that evolution is happening like this so fast right now. Like my kids are entirely different humans than I am. Like I didn't grow up with the internet, and I had to adopt it as I got older, but like they've never seen anything but the internet. Like what is writing? Have you written a letter? Like, oh my gosh, I gotta write, I can't type. I mean, I can't voice chat. So there's, they're growing into a whole new world. And so I think even now with the technosphere, as I call it, or like as it's been coined, it's even more important to ground. It's more important to connect into maybe other ways of human consciousness throughout time and history, and to appreciate that, say, that Aboriginal mind, or to appreciate that slower way of life, where we lived seasonally. And I'm not saying go back there. I just incorporate some of that old energy as we move forward in this new energy. And then we won't build up such a bad shadow side. Like, we have a really big shadow side right now to our world that, a lot of people don't want to talk about. And when we do talk about it, we get overwhelmed because we don't know how to deal with it properly. And that puts us into more state of victimhood or fear, because we're not really dealing with our shadow. But there's other ways of seeing the world that help us get a little more perspective on why we have this shadow to our world right now, and what we can actually start to change at a simple level to make that not such a big issue on our planet. I'm just excited I'm a bit of an optimist, but I'm excited about the opportunity for personal growth through all of this. And I think in the next 3-4 years, we're going to see some really, really big shifts for a lot of people because of all of this. There's plenty of opportunity for big corporations to take over and middle class to be killed and blah, 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 all this stuff. But I won't buy into that, because I know that the individual creator is so much more powerful, and they have a voice now, and they have a platform now, and they have an opportunity to be self-sufficient from what our main cash flow of energy is on the planet, that they can be sovereign enough to get into that creative space and build something beautiful. So that's coming down the pipeline even more so now than it ever has. So I just think that's a good thing.
No, I think so, because it's like Abraham Hicks says, the Abraham material, if you're familiar with that, says that, one individual connected to source and creating from there is more powerful than a million who are not. And they weren't saying it, of course, like in a competitive way. They were just saying that ultimately, you are the absolute creator of your experience, and they're coming from a very spiritual standpoint. Your intent creates, and so we are in the midst of a lot of fear, like you were mentioning. Oh, the middle class. Oh, this, that, and yes, there's the great evil empire has made its move. Okay, fine, whatever. What's new? It tries all the time. This is just number 7,843 times that the evil empire has tried to rule the earth. It's not new. But there are rituals. Yeah. So there's a framework and rituals we can use. And I think this is so important to help use this time the best that we can. And so, one that you definitely mentioned is nature. So whether a person can go into the deep nature or the green nature, the desert nature, the ocean side nature, whatever it is, you can do that. And it can be looking for the dandelions growing through the sidewalk, very heroic. But also, like you were mentioning, a plant, you can certainly grow some basil. You can do some microgreens in your home. A lot of easy things you can do, and you can hang out and you can watch that process. And especially if it's something you can eat, like microgreens, wow, you're seeing this whole beautiful cycle. So there's ways for all of us that we can connect to that source. And I do mention neo-Aboriginal, but also and that does sound a little bit prehistoric, but also a term, just natural human. Just be that natural human. That's something that I know I'm striving for. This kind of tune into all those beautiful instincts that maybe we don't have. They're not as strong as they used to be. Get tuned into those. Be able to see the nature spirits, have a relationship with nature, connected to your source. This natural human. There was a crazy guy, T.D. Lingo. He was a brain scientist, and he called it Homo novus. was our next evolution.
Homo novus.
Homo novus.
Right. Well, I've also heard we're called Homo sapien domesticated fragilis is our current name. We're the domesticated fragilis. So, that kind of concept of
and that definitely needs to go, because I see it's that thing, like the Homo sapien fragilis. Homo domesticus fragilis. Well, it makes sense, and that's something that everyone has to take on, because if you ever seen just go and look at, if you happen to be at the store and if you see a pasture raised chicken and then a regular fatty chicken, just realize which one do you look more like when you're naked. It hurts, but just but the thing is, but through living that natural life, living that, getting connected to nature, exercising, eating well, taking natural supplements, everything that really Herbal Jedi is doing, and that we oftentimes talk about on the show, you can get back to that pasture-raised chicken or really close to it. And then your kids, they really can do it. They really can do it.
Totally. They're way more open. They have way better mindscape for adopting and creating and getting into this. I was thinking about, as you say, that pasture-raised chicken, I'm thinking of apples. I'm if you go to the store and you see a little nick on an apple, you're like, oh, that apple, what a terrible apple. I can't believe they're trying to sell this thing. Who do they think they are, trying to convince me to buy this apple? If you grew that apple and there's a little nick on it, you go wow, yeah, this is amazing apple. Just just that change right away is a great example of how like you can appreciate even the quirks and the things that might not be what you consider ideal from your domesticated space. When you get back tuned into something that's like, wow, I really appreciate this apple because it grew for me on this tree that grew in my yard. Like, how brilliant, you know? And we can take that metaphor to so many things in our life. When we go and create it, even if it's like, say we make a stop motion video and it's like this really bad clunky thing and it doesn't look very good, but we did it, you know, we're really proud of that only because we put the energy into it, versus we go to YouTube and we see like all these beautiful stop motion videos. Like, this is an example. Get creative. I really, even if it's the smallest thing, start to build that as your superpower. That is the human superpower, is your creativity. And the more you train it, the more the law of momentum kicks in. And the more you get momentum, the more you attract more useful tools, more useful guides. I just think all this stuff is really propelling right now in a beautiful way. And yeah, like, it doesn't have to just be getting into nature, because again, as we said, you are nature. It's being in your natural inclinations, being in your natural creator mode. Those are also part of your nature, right? Even if you are an engineer, just doing technical engineering stuff is very different from creating a new piece of software or a new bridge or a new idea. I think that more and more, if we can tap into our creator on any level, we're starting to empower ourselves at a much, something that can't be taken from us by the evil empire or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And I think it's definitely happening. And it's all about looking, feeling for what excites you. That great, that great uh, thing you said about, connecting to your inner authority. Well, along with that, once you're there, once you kind of quiet your mind a little bit, what excites you? And that's really it. And that's the thing I think maybe so many people have forgotten. And I think during this, time of quiet, maybe they can connect to more, is what excites you. Something does, something does. And there's way too much of humanity doesn't have that inner authority, that connection. And then they, from that place, like, really, it's a sad thing, but I'm not going to say it's sad. It's just a lot of people don't actually every day, it's not part of their mind, in kind of our machine
No.
culture, what excites me. It might just be like, you're going to make the perfect pizza tonight. It might be whatever it is, but there's something that excites you. Cultivate that every day. What excites you? There's got to be something. There is, I guarantee it.
Yeah, no, I know. Like, well, we're in a state of overwhelm. There's just so much coming at us all the time that it's easier to scroll and just like be excited, get some dopamine high, just get a hit because of somebody else's creation, than it is to actually get into creator mode. And that's the what I'll call a spiritual bypass to this whole process that so many of us are on right now, because we're overwhelmed. So step one, remove some distraction.
Yes.
Step two, build something, anything, even if it's just putting two pieces of Lego together, even if it's just that, build something. Step three, repeat. Simple.
Yes.
It's like, it's not hard, right? It's just that it's hard to get out of overwhelm. It's hard to stop for a moment. And that's the thing, like the engine stopped, the planes are out of the sky, the media is still churning out as much as it can because it needs to keep us in overwhelm, because that's when we're consuming more. But if we can stop on our own, this process will naturally take over our body. It'll naturally take over our mind.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't realize the little microphone was off. Well, so what were you just saying? Oh goodness. Okay, that threw me off. Sorry about
We're in that.
that.
It's good. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess if we're gonna leave people with anything, sort of tangible next action of like, where do we go from here? What are we doing? And how are
Oh
we
yes,
feeling about that?
yes. So you were mentioning removing distractions first, and so we're going to have her on the show in a week or so. Lorraine, I forget her last name, but she talks about the mythology of the Lord of the Rings, and she says that our phones, our iPads, our devices are precious. Oh, that's horrible.
Right.
It's painful. So so take your precious and put it away. It just it's very if a person doesn't feel that, just try harder. You will. Put down your precious and then create something. Definitely spend
That's right.
time
I
in
call it the
nature.
pocket god is what I
The
call it. But
pocket
yeah.
god. Precious. Yeah, it's so awful.
Yeah.
It really puts it in perspective. And if
It's
you need
pretty funny.
if you need help, like cutting back on your devices some, just watch Lord of the Rings, all three. Just watch them, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's really close to home. And then spend time in nature,
Well,
definitely. Mm-hmm. Okay.
yeah, no, I just see it all the time. I remember the first time I went to New York City, and like I was walking down the subway and everyone was on their precious, just like this. And I was like, but they weren't hitting each other. They were like navigating and weaving this weird dance. So they all just didn't hit each other. And me, I'm like, whoa, 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 people everywhere. Cause I'm like not on my precious. Somehow it's in such a different flow. Like there's just a different awareness that's happening as you're moving through life. And I'm just as addicted to my precious as anyone. It takes work. It takes work to let go of that because it's so easy to run to. Like anytime you have 2 seconds, like I'm waiting for you on the call here. And I'm like, okay, precious, 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 like I'm not actually sitting with my own thoughts.
Yes. Yeah. Having your own connection to source. That's one of the things that we don't like. It's just that calm, serene presence. There's a kind of a modern day philosopher said, Neil Kramer, he just said, is my silent presence enough? And yes, it is. You just need to hang out there more and you'll find that, wow, when you're
Yeah.
there, things happen. A lot happens, and that's where you can remove distractions, create,
Yeah.
definitely spend time in nature. And something you mentioned for sure, part of a great framework for that deepening of that connection and that creative life, getting out of the sales funnel, is Wim Hof breathing. That's definitely something we've been doing here. And I mean,
Yeah.
I would wonder about your experiences
Well, and
with Wim Hof breathing, because that to me, if you want to cleanse negative trauma and emotion, it can be very intense, at least for me. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And I want to just speak to the Wim Hof breathing for a second.
Yes,
Is
for
that
sure.
it's not just Wim Hof breathing. A lot of people nowadays, for the last couple of years, Wim Hof has kind of held our consciousness around what this type of breathing is. But like it's all pranayamic breathing and yogic breathing and meditation breathing, and breathing practices have been part, like a fundamental piece to all spiritual growth on this planet since the beginning of time. And so I just want to like invite you that you don't even need to follow a methodology here. You can learn a bunch of different methodologies and then adopt what actually feels best in your body. But breathe deeply, breathe slowly, breathe with intention. Take a breath, right? We're taking a breath out of time right now as we step back. Take that breath. Don't hold your breath. Don't shallow breathe. Get really that breathing working for you. Our planet is kind of not breathing so well right now, and all of a sudden it's taking this huge breath as we take the cars off the road and the planes out of the sky for a little bit. It's like just a breath of fresh air, and feel into that breath, because the planet around you is doing that. It's so easy to connect back into that when everything around you is singing with that breath right now. And I think there's an easy way to start to tap in. is just breathing, no matter how, if it's Wim Hof or if it's another type of breathing like that. That is probably one of the first places to start, for sure.
Oh no, it absolutely is. And it's amazing how when one starts a breathing practice, they find that they really don't breathe as deeply as they think. I think we tend to breathe very shallow. I think definitely a lot of trauma, emotional turmoil, you know, uh, a person may notice a lot coming up when they begin to breathe, and then they may actually begin to connect to and feel and realize that there's trauma in their life that is kind of been constricting their breath that they've been collecting. And so just for anybody who begins Wim Hof breathing or any breathing practice, you might find emotion that needs to be brought out, cleansed out, removed. It's like if you start up an old engine that's been sitting there, you get it cranked up and it runs. It kind of like puts a bunch of soot out and black smoke and blah, 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 and it kind of gets. You may find that that's your experience with deep breathing, but it will pass, and then you'll just be running great. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I mean, we talked about a lot, and I love that we have a little bit of a framework. I love that because I love to be able to give people like, hey, here's some things to do. Whichever ones resonate with you, go for it. Remove distractions, put down the precious, create something. Just feel from that center of authority. What excites you, go do it. Definitely breathe, spend time in nature, cultivate. Yeah.
I'd say sit with uncomfortable feelings too is another one. Like be okay with really tough stuff coming up for you right now, and just like know that this too will pass. But like go into it for a little bit. Like let yourself feel some fear and some pain and some anxiety, but just be aware. We have this thing called presence, but then we also have something called omnipresence, which is this like state an octave above our current presence. And sometimes we can, like, when we're in these really challenging things, we can activate our omnipresence a little bit and be like, oh, I can notice that this is a really challenging thing and it's affecting me in this way. And I felt this way before. How is this a reoccurring thing in my life? And like, just dig into it from that space sometimes, I think is more valuable than people realize, to just be in these challenging, painful, like anxiety times. Feel into that and be okay with those. Don't just try to whitewash it all, right? Like, oh, I'm going to go to nature now and be spiritual. Like, I understand that it could come across that way. I really want to just echo that pain is part of life too. Fear is part of life too. And it comes up for a reason. And it's often to tell us something deeper so we can go to that next level. We can't get there if we don't have those feelings, right? We need to move through those in healthy ways, in safe settings. And there's a lot of opportunity for a good, safe setting to move through the stuff that's holding you back right now. And I would invite people to be okay with that fun comfortableness, we call it.
Yeah, fun comfortableness. And there's the realization that it's always there. And those uncomfortable emotions, those uncomfortable feelings, whatever that root of that fear might be, to the extent that one can, I definitely would say, Wim Hof breathing helps. Breathing helps. Everything we're talking about helps. But when you begin to do that, it just, a way I see it is, it's not going away. It's there. And if it's too much, then okay, put a little yellow sticky note on it and just get back to it, but don't let it go. If today 20 minutes was enough, that's fine. Maybe you can't do it all in a day. Some things take time. They take months, years, whatever. But it's great to spend time in that uncomfortableness and maybe a little bit of motivation, and maybe it's a little bit of maybe an unmotivating emotion also. But I think it's more motivating than unmotivating, is that, well, don't worry, it'll be there tomorrow. It's not going away. So until you deal with it, it's there. And it is holding back your life. It is, And so if you want to live your best and your most full life, just, if it's 15 minutes a day, well, it's 15 minutes a day, I'm going to work on that one, take it out of its box and work on it, then put it away, put it back in the drawer. Okay, that's part of my work. It's part of my workout that I do every day. Yeah. And so I thought I'd
Yeah,
go ahead.
and
Yeah,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say that it too will pass. It'll
Yes.
pass, right? Like it'll shift. So sit with it for a minute if it's challenging, and then move, do something. Just like, okay, I recognize you. You're not going away right now. This is not an easy feeling. I've been feeling this way maybe for 20 years, and it's coming up, and I'm feeling depressed, or I'm just having a bad day. Well, move, do something, anything at that point. Like just start. Get creative. Remember that you are a creator, not a victim. And so take a walk, uh, go do some dishes, make a meal, do anything, you know, this too will pass. And we have to rewire ourselves, decolonize a little bit, not take on so much of this competitive, controlling way that human society is built right now, to remember that we're collaborators and we're all wanting connection, and we all are really sensitive beings, and none of us are enlightened really. We're like, it's not like that person who's rich, let's say Bill Gates, it's not like he's happy, you know what I mean? Like he's got his stuff too that's brutal and really hard to deal with. And so don't wish you were something else that you are not. Just remember that what you are is already powerful. You're very powerful in that internal authority place. And that's going to take a few layers to unpeel. But as you start unpeeling that, you'll start to build more confidence in it and really grow that, so that you can shine as the beautiful being that you are, the unique and powerful being that you are. And that's what the world needs right now. That's what we all should be helping each other to grow into.
Yes. Yes. Getting to that powerful center and creating. I love it. That's what we need to do. And that's definitely, I'm glad we could have you on the show to talk about that, because I really think this framework that we're talking about, it's very, very helpful to people. And like one last thing I'd ask is meditation. Well, one thing I also would just mention is having a practice along with all of this where you involve your body, whether it's walking, yoga,
Mhm.
kickboxing, whatever's right for you. You got to move that body, definitely. I
Yeah.
believe that's just essential.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's part of our expression and experience of life is movement, definitely.
It's true. Otherwise, we call it mental masturbation, right?
Yes.
All of this philosophy and ideas and ideology, if you're not physically creating and moving, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
that's and
essential.
also yeah, and along with, let's say one is working on being sitting in uncomfortableness or fun comfortableness, and you're bringing things up and you're working on them. Definitely, I know from myself. I mean, a way to help when I'm burning through things and going through that purification process, being able to breathe and being able to just go walk. Are if it wasn't for breathing and walking, well, I wouldn't want to be a human. That would just be awful, because those are like two great methods of you're processing during that time. It's you got to move and you got to
Hmm.
breathe the process. You gotta, and also just
Yeah.
experience life. It's beautiful. So it's not just for burning up bad
Well,
stuff.
that's it.
Yeah. Um, so I ask, are there any like guided meditations, any meditation music? Is there anything that actually speaks to you these days that you might recommend for people? Because sometimes people, we can all meditate and we can all, but sometimes, wow, just putting on those headphones and doing something guided can be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, there's a few. I mean, I I tend to attempt to do what I believe meditation should be, in my opinion. This is totally just my opinion. Is not this long drawn out thing. A lot of people think meditation might be sit on a rock for an hour or something like that. I really believe meditation is 20 minutes. This is my personal belief. It's a 20-minute practice. Anything more than 20 minutes, maybe it's going to take you a few extra minutes, maybe like 25, 30 minutes to kind of get into the flow of it. But anything more than that is too much. We need little breaks out of time, and they need to be easy for us to do. So like from my perspective, a good meditation practice is something that you can easily achieve in a short period of time. Um, I was originally when my father's into Rudolf Steiner and all that. He also put me through the Flower of Life education with Drinvala Melchizedek and that whole series. That was a great 20-minute meditation where you essentially do mantras and deprogram and basically clear for the first like 3 minutes, and then just build this internal glow inside of your center and just radiate it out till it's bright light, and then build it out till it's out here and just radiate that out around you. And then get your, what they call the Merkaba spinning, this kind of star tetrahedral field. It's your like toroidal field generator. That's one, but it can be heady for some people because there's thinking of too many steps, but it's a really simple process. Essentially, it's clear, build, expand, spin. You know, that's really the process. So it's like, it's a simple thing if you don't make it too heady, but that's essentially what my idea of a meditation is: clear, build your energy, expand, and then listen to the universe and get your rotational listening in. So another meditation that I really like is this one that's really simple, and it's 5 minutes of do nothing, right? Any of us can do that. Turn all your stuff off, right? 5 minutes, close your eyes, try not to think. Just try not to think. Just get the monkey mind under control for a second. Just slow down for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of active appreciation. And this is to just be happy about the things you've done in your day. Maybe I made a piece of toast today and it tasted amazing. Maybe I told somebody they were wonderful. Just actively appreciate, wow, I've got a home, I've got food, I've got this. Just start appreciating for 5 minutes. All the things that have happened in your day, maybe in your week, maybe in your life. And this builds this momentum. Build that momentum for 5 minutes. And then 5 more minutes of just, after that, it's like, listen, just listen. What is coming next? And then as you start to listen to what the universe has to share with you, take that momentum and what you're hearing and start to build a new level of, which is the last 5 minutes essentially, of just of what am I going to do next? Where am I going with this? What am I excited about? How can I make this energy into fuel for manifestation? And so some version of that, like really simply just slow down and stop, build your energy, activate it into your future momentum, and then listen to the universe. What does it have to share with you? I think meditation is about dialogue. It's about creating dialogue with the higher self and the lower self, and or whatever you might want to call that. But you need to slow down and stop and purge and clear before you do that, because we're not set up for that right off the bat. So at least 5 minutes of doing some kind of clearing, and then some kind of activating and building and growing energy, and then some kind of downloading from the universe. That's, to me, any practice that involves that for 5 minutes, 5 minutes to 20-minute practice in total is a brilliant form of meditation that's easily attainable and doable consistently, because it takes consistency to get some kind of momentum going.
Opening oneself up for downloads from the universe, that'd be a whole topic in itself, because downloads are something that people will begin to experience. And when you do, you'll know the difference between a download from universe and just a fleeting thought, you know. It's definitely something powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And now
it comes through you. Like,
yes.
It's like, wow. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
And the person, you'll know it when
There's
it happens.
potency.
If it hasn't. Yeah, you'll know it when it happens. If it has not happened already, you'll know it. You'll recognize it. It's a beautiful thing. And the nice thing about having a download, as we call it, is it's not your mind. It's not your ego. You didn't do it. You know, it was an improvisation through you, and you know when it's a download because it's nothing to do with you. You received the info and you went, wow, okay, better write this down, better remember, because I like that. It's impersonal knowledge that is given you that you can use, you might say. It's not, it's kind of hard to explain. But so definitely something I think would be great to see on the Herbal Jedi channel would be now, since you have talked about meditation, a meditation where you're sitting on a rock, a guided meditation. You're sitting on a rock with a big wasp plushie you've got, and we all just kind of meditate together with the sounds of nature and everything. It would be wonderful, you know. And just one last thing I want to mention, just get your thought on it before we sign off, is when it comes to downloads, I had a dream recently because of all this quiet and all the good practices cultivated during this quiet. It was kind of a waking dream, you know. It was pretty lucid in it. It might have been astral projecting as far as I know. But I was walking along this canal that we often walk down, and there's houses there, and everybody always has, you can see all the TVs on in the houses as you walk down the canal. And they always have CNN on, it seems. And I go, wow, you know, that's not a good sign. Always, you think, wow, is this what humanity does? All
Right?
this, like, this is it. Every single person, regardless of like socioeconomic status, whatever, we're all kind of one Borg in the evening as we watch our programming before we go to sleep. I'm like, that's all life has to offer. Man, that's that. So, but in this dream, this waking dream, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was 3 a.m. I knew what time it was, and the TVs were all still on. And I thought, wow, everyone either left their TV on or they're still watching TV. And then I realized what I was seeing is that they were asleep. Everybody was asleep, but now they were broadcasting that signal. They were broadcasting CNN. And so you don't want to be in that place. And a lot of people very well may be. That signal never stops. You get your programming, and then you become a repeater. Here's your programming, and then you broadcast the programming. I realized, wow, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. They're all asleep. They're all dreaming CNN. The signal continues. And I went, wow. So that was kind of a download for me in a waking dream. I went, wow, stop broadcasting the signal. Stop receiving it. Stop broadcasting it.
I know. It's been tough for me seeing that all over everyone's face when I go out into the world right now. And they're just like, you can just see how much news they've watched by the way they look, whether they're like if you get 5 feet away from somebody and they're like, please step 6 feet away from me. And I'm like, oh dude, I'm 5 feet away from you. I get it. Like that's too close. Right. And you've been told this like 1,000 times. And I understand that there's a reason, but it's just broadcasting this signal so intensely right now that like it's hard to hear our own thoughts when there's so much that we're trying to hold on to with all these other thoughts that we're broadcasting through our, like we only have so much bandwidth, and we got to start broadcasting things that are coming in that download form at a deeper level if we want to be powerful people. And we want to create things that are really worth being in the world right now. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm the optimist too. And I think that is the individual's choice. If they so desire, this is the time when they can do that. We have a lot of advantages right now. And so this time has been a blessing. And I think that if one is on that bit of training, that bit of framework that we've been talking about, if people are doing that, if they start doing that, doors will open. This is a magical time.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm also of that opinion that everyone needs to like choose their own way of showing up. You know, we just can't force each other to adopt different ways. And I would never want to do that. I want to always see that there's an invitation, and that's really maybe if we can leave with anything. There's some invitations here. What is actually valuable to you? What did you hear today that was valuable? Great. What you didn't hear, what didn't resonate or what wasn't like super valuable, throw it all out. You don't have room to keep that stuff. Just don't hold on to that. Just take the little pieces, the little gems from every conversation, from every experience, and hold on to those and cultivate those, and throw the rest out because it's not serving you. It's taking up your bandwidth. So.
It's like, don't give away your bandwidth, definitely. Well, Herbal Jedi, it's been amazing talking to you today. And your website is harmonicarts.com, right?
Yeah.
And so,
I'll give you a couple of those.
Yeah. Where can people get a hold of you as we sign off? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, harmonicarts.com or .ca is our herbal dispensary plant medicine offering of elixirs and superfoods and medicinal mushrooms and herbal tonics and tinctures and all that kind of good stuff. That's the medicine making side that we do. I'm also the director of wildrosecollege.com, which is the online herbal school. My father created that. It's a 40-year-old herb school that's now all online and does practical herbalist diplomas. People want to go deeper with their herbal education, they can do that. And then my personal blog and stuff like that is yarrowwillard.com or herbaljedi.com. They're both the same link. And you can find me on YouTube and Instagram and all the social channels at Herbal Jedi, essentially. So find me in the Netherverse. I'm there. And yeah, check out what we're doing.
Yes, and definitely follow Herbal Jedi on YouTube. Amazing, charming, going deep videos connecting to nature. They are amazing.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Wait till you see this Scotch broom one where I got stung by the bee or the wasp.
Oh, is this sting actually going to be there on the
film.
video? Oh my gosh! Wow,
it's pretty funny.
Oh wow! Well, there you go. Everybody, sign up. Yeah, follow Jedi on YouTube and definitely click that bell because you do not want to miss this one. I wonder if they did you edit out any choice words, or were you?
Oh yeah, it was like oh, it was bad. It was bad. It was really funny. I couldn't believe it. Like, but he just my videographer was just laughing and laughing. He couldn't get enough of it. It was like, I'm like, you got to finish the video before my face blows up. I'm like, it's just such a funny thing.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, please get that one out soon. I cannot wait to see it. Thank you, Herbal Jedi, so much for being on the show. This is great. I think this truly will help people. That was the intent, and it's been a lot of fun. So thank you.
Great. Hey, thanks for having me too. Appreciate what you're doing. With all
you.
the radiant creator work. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
May the forest be with you.
And you too. Bye-bye.
You are listening to Radiant Creators, a collaborative project composed of people whose passion, purpose, and dedication requires forging their own unique path of empowerment and livelihood. A radiant creator isn't making a living, they are living.